Seren, congratulations on making it to another Super 7.
Thanks, Brian.
This is your second DBNI appearance, your second time to make it into the Super 7. What are your feelings after your big win this weekend, and did you do anything to celebrate?
I was very relieved. I was very happy that it came through after, nearly 15 years of playing, because both of my games went nearly right up to the deadline. And honestly, there were like a lot of low points for me during that second game where I won. I was absolutely ready to draw when Bradley was ahead, because at that time I didn't think I had a path. So to be able to come back from that in the end, it felt really good. And to do so with like what I felt like was like a pretty big target on my back. It definitely feels different these days playing now than it did like 2 years or 3 years ago. Back then, like, I felt like I could get away with a little bit more. These days people are like, you can't give Seren an inch. And so there's the feeling of having to play despite that. And like, it feels like, winning with the target on my back is in some ways like even more satisfying.
Seren, why do you feel that you can win this game?
I think that anybody who has kind of made the final 7 has a chance. These games have been so unpredictable, and like watching the kind of variety of things that has happened this year has been, really exciting. I think last year was a lot more predictable with like most of the Frances winning the boards, but I think this year like 6 of the 7 countries like qualified across the qualifying games. So I think just from like the breadth of play that we're getting and the variety of things that are happening, I think anybody has a chance. And I think that would be my first argument for why I do have one, because I think if there's anybody that is going to be targeted on the board, I'm pretty high on the list.
So what is it about your play that you think will give you an advantage in this game?
I think that my play is fairly well suited to top boards. As opposed to maybe like non-top board games and whatnot, for maybe two different reasons. Like, one is I think I work pretty well with experienced players and players who are like and strong players, and everybody on this board falls into those categories. So that's a good sign for me. Like I enjoy kind of the higher level strategy, like the kind of level of predictability you get from interacting with strong players. And the other part is that I try to operate things like very much like with a sensitivity toward social capital, and like making sure that relationships, however they go, like are a big part of the strategy. Because on top boards, ultimately, I think you said this once yourself, Brian, often the people who decide who wins are the people who no longer have a chance to win themselves. And if you end somebody's chances of winning, it's much easier to do that than to win yourself. And if you do that, there might just be the temptation to do it back to you.
Absolutely. Which other player do you fear the most on this board?
Usually I think that fear is not the best mindset to approach these kinds of games with. So I wouldn't say that I fear anybody from the perspective of I'd be like inclined to, attack them because of it, because I think that that's like a fairly limiting like kind of a strategic decision, and it really like places a ceiling on your game if you think that way. From the perspective of who I think is going to have like maybe higher chances of winning, just because people like might underestimate them a bit, or like not be as accustomed to their style of play, and that might give them more of an edge that I have to look out for. I would say Doug and Johnny. Doug being like an extended deadline player that most of us, I believe, haven't played with ourselves. I haven't played with Doug, but like, I've seen from his results that he's clearly like a very strong player, and like he no doubt has like, a lot of experience and a lot of ideas for like how he wants to play from extended deadline. And Johnny, because I think Johnny is a very, very underrated player in virtual and face-to-face right now. And it's no surprise to me at all that he made the top board.
Do you have any pre-game rituals?
I have my coffee. I have my coffee and my water.
And this is probably the one that I'm most interested in. Why do you play the game of diplomacy?
It's a really good question, Brian. Like, I ask myself that every time, every time there's like a 3-way on me, and then I'm like, why do I play this game? But I think I just keep coming back because there's like really a social element to it that's like missing from so many other strategic games, and like in the same sense a strategic element that's missing from so many other social games. I don't think, like, short of like going on Survivor or something, I don't think like I could find the same blend of like the social and the strategic side.
Well, Seren, congratulations again. I cannot wait to watch your games this weekend. Wish you the best of luck, and wish you continued success in future seasons.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Have a good one.
Last time, you basically gave Jason Mastbaum a Diplomat of the Year award. Like, you were on a board where Jason Mastbaum won the title. Like, how does that make you feel?
I convoyed him into my center.
Right. How does that make you feel?
It meant that Fair and Jane would lose, and so I was a happy man. She stabbed me. She ruined my game. So I was able to take care of that problem by convoying Jason into Ankara and putting him back on his feet. And I was happy to do it, and I think he was a deserving winner.
Yeah, no argument on the deserving winner part. Before that last game, you said this might be as fun as it gets. Is that what you really mean this time too?
No, I'm not. I don't. Kevin, I'm mad. I got to be honest with you. I'm not happy. I should be a second seed. I should be a second. I won 2 games. I'm the first DBNI person to win 2 games. Okay, I won the first game. No disrespect to Matt Totonchy. He got a game thrown to him under legitimate, but in my mind, tainted way. He didn't deserve to win. He got a second seed because of complete crap. And that made me angry. I was angry that night. You were in the room. And the anger is not dissipated. I played the second round only for personal pride. But now I got to go play Austria-Turkey next to Seren and Peter, where my chances are decreased significantly than I would be playing in the West with Alliance players. And so I'm not going to have fun. I mean, I'm determined. I will do my best. Anyone who knows me knows I never give up. If I had, I wouldn't have played on Sunday. But I'm angry. I'm particularly angry at this situation.
Yeah, you'd be a 1 seed because you're a single digit seed, and Matt is the current number 1 seed. Or I'm sorry, not Matt. Doug's the current number 1 seed, and he was 10. So you'd be the 1 seed. You go from
even worse.
1 to 6.
No, I mean, and for everyone who says it's sour grapes, it is sour grapes. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. Okay? But if you played, and I think I played the best game I've ever played in round 1 of DBNI. I said it at the time. I've gone back and looked. I did everything I wanted to do in that game, including a misorder that was intentional, for 10 hours. And just have 2 people come to you gleefully that they flipped a coin and you're going to lose, and ask me to move away in such a way to where they would have it done quicker. Like, no way. I wanted the shame of the throw to be shown on DBN. I think it is a shameful throw. I am not Matt Totonchy's friend. I will not do anything to help him in this game, unless it helps me more. Anything that I deal with Matt has to be a better deal for me. That's it. But I'm not, if I had won a coin flip and someone threw me centers, I would take them. So I'm not mad at him for doing that, but I'm mad at the situation, and I'm not forgetting who benefited, and I'm not forgetting who got hurt in that situation. That's me. So I'm coming in hot. Maybe I'm not going to feel this way in 4 days when the game is played, or 5 days, but right now, this isn't a good mental state to be in. Like, when I'm already writing off one player, I've been around the block long enough to know that doesn't usually help you for your game. So I've got to get over this, and I don't know if this will be broadcast before, and if it is, I don't care. You can hear this I would tell, I'm fine telling them. I told them at the time, and I told it in the chat.
That was
Sorry, not the happy-go-lucky Ed that you normally get. I'm mad about it.
no.
I had
Well,
to win 2 games.
yeah. Well, here, so a little bit about the. So I've interviewed a lot because you've been on a lot of top boards. You've won a lot of tournaments. So this is a different style. It's funny. I look back at our camera faces from 2 years ago, and I am significantly grayer.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah, but 2 years of experience, 2 years of seeing the game change. It was a fully virtual game when you were on that top board in 2022. You've been to face-to-face tournaments now. What has the last 2 years done to your diplomacy game? Kind of this is a piggyback on the first question. What's the last 2 years of diplomacy done to get you to this spot right now?
Well, I'll tell you how I feel. I'm not happy to be here anymore. A lot of times on the top board, I was just happy to be there. That was a great place for me. It exceeded all my goals. I think the DBNI tournament, no offense to any other, is the toughest tournament and the truest test of diplomacy out there. And I've been on the Super 7, and I got knocked out first, so the worst has already happened to me in terms of making it and just getting killed. I'm only here to win. I'm not here for the experience. I would rather be doing lots of other things. I'm here to try and have my skills tested in the harshest possible environment against the best possible players for the longest period of time. And, well, that's what I got.
You called it the World Championship last time we chatted about this. Still mean it?
I do. I would rather win this than a WDC, and that's no offense to anyone else in the WDC, but that this to me, there's a random factor in any tournament where you can have interested amateurs, and I love amateurs, right? It comes from the French word to love, or something like, loving, and Taye and Saugé could say it, but you can have a person play for the first time against Chris Brand, but here there's no wild cards. Everyone's good. Everyone's more than good. They're all got here for a reason. And so if you can be the top out of the 28, I think it shows how skillful you are.
Yeah, this field, some of those boards we were watching, like I look, when we do research for this stuff, what are we going to talk about this year? You look at some of the boards in past years, and nothing against, but boards that we had this year were unbelievably tough. So it's hard to argue against you. Like, I'm old school face to face, and Worlds means a lot to me, but this tournament every year keeps getting tougher and tougher. And, I can't wait for this weekend's board, because it's going to be so much different than 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't set up for my style. I don't think I do well on top boards. I've been lucky enough to win a couple of them, but not a virtual top board other than this one on DBNI, and I won a press one, and obviously I haven't won any face-to-face ones. But I don't like playing cutthroat. I'm sensitive to the fact that Michalis Kamaritis would not have stabbed me in round 3, in the second chance round. That he and I had worked so well together, and I had to play in a way that maybe is my true self, that I hate admitting that I have that in me to do it. I hate it. I can't tell you. I wasn't thrilled afterwards. So this is not how I like to play diplomacy, because I view it as a game of mutual interest. It doesn't mean I won't do it. It doesn't mean that I can't live with the feelings of guilt because I want to win. But I struggle emotionally with this. And whereas I know Peter doesn't struggle at all with it, And I think Seren does struggle a little bit with it, to be fair to her.
Yeah, Brandon and Peter are along the same lines, which are 2 of the 3 winners. And Mastbaum played the game of his life. So going into, Saturday, it's going to be, I don't want to say a similar type of performance, but maybe with the newcomers, it'll be a little bit different. And I had 2 last follow-ups that I want to keep on the camera. One is I gave you a hard time about not topping a board going into the last one. I think calling you out for like 8 or 9 months without a soul top and all those shared tops. Well, now you got one. So we know how you.
I got 2. I got 2.
Oh, right. You got 2. Yeah, there you go. You got 2. And
I'm not letting anyone get away with I didn't win the game 1. I won it.
The other is I am so proud that you didn't come onto this interview and say you're just here so you don't get fined.
I already did that. That was so funny, though. So, yeah.
But,
no, I don't have a great top board record, and that is. But what you said about Brandon, he told McAllis and me after the game, the second chance game, he's like, "Why you guys feel this way? It's a game about dots and who gets the most." And I'm like, in its own simple way, it helped me mentally recover. But I don't view it as a game about dots. I view it as a game about people. And if those people cared about the game, and I believe they do, if they're in this tournament, as much as I do, and someone did to them what I did to them, they would not feel good. And I didn't feel good either, even though they don't want to hear it, but it's true.
in your defense, though, he worked along with you even afterwards. So whatever it was, it couldn't have been that damaging, because there's no way that when I get stabbed, I'm usually playing along. So you must have said something right, or I don't know.
I want to explain, because a lot of people are like, you played stupid, which is fine. And I was going through some emotional stuff, but the truth is, if you had lost to a bullshit coin flip throw in game one, the last thing that you can afford in your second chance game is for shenanigans to happen. And so the idea of not killing him was that he doesn't throw dots to another player and I lose that way. It was to keep him alive enough to give him hope and actually a chance, to where I still had to make some guesses. But if I lost that way, I'd be okay with it. But I wasn't going to lose to another throw. Was not going to happen. Like, once that happens to someone, they don't forget it.
Christopher Ward, congratulations on qualifying for the 2024 DBN Invitational Championship game.
Thank you very much, Brian. It's good to be here.
So after 85 games, you have come close, but you have not managed to win a top board format game before. How does it feel to not only win your first board, but to have it come on such a big stage?
A surprise, first and foremost. I think I'm as surprised as many of the viewers and commentators probably were. I've come closer with a couple of press, like winner takes all semi-finals, but not. But yeah, my two previous virtual top boards, both as Austria, sort of went up in flames. The VDC in 2022, and was it a VDL top board just a few weeks back? So it was good to stay in it for longer and not have to give all my dots to a Turkish ally.
Well, you gave some of your dots to an ally.
Quite. Well, yeah. Who needs home centers?
I mean, come on. Clearly not Christopher Ward. Did you do anything to celebrate?
I slept eventually. I actually stayed up and watched the stream to the bitter end, which is not usual for me. I'm too old and decrepit these days. I normally straight off to sleep, but I lay in bed and watched to about 2:30 in the morning, and then slept. So it was good to see who else was going to be around, and I watched the stream again for the last chance semi-finals as well, to the bitter end. So just to see what the competition is going to be like.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta get a leg up, study up on your competition. Speaking of, why do you feel that you can win this game?
Because I'm there. Because I'm there, and there shouldn't be a great deal of pressure on me. There's no expectation. So, and I suppose there's not a target on my back. There are some great players on this board, and maybe they will fight each other, and I can slip for unnoticed. That's kind of the way it happened in the semi-final as well. I sort of came through the middle to make it a four-way race towards the end, and that wasn't looking likely at one point when I had Trieste and a very uncontiguous Russian empire.
Who do you feel like your biggest competition? Who do you fear the most on this board?
Look, there are great players, and if you're asking for a prediction, I can give you a prediction. But honestly, I fear no one. I make jokes about oh, this is scary, whatever. And it's certainly going to be a challenge. And it is nervous. Sometimes swimming in shark-infested waters. I've got no reason to be scared. It's a game, and I feel like I'm here on merits, as surprising as it might have been. And we'll just take it from there.
Do you have any pre-game rituals that you plan to do before the game?
No, I'm not the superstitious type. I'm used to going on stage and preparing, like warming up and stuff. Partly because my body is such a wreck. However, it's just making sure I've been to the loo and have food and drink and stuff. Make sure I've got water to hand and things like that. But maybe it shows in my play over the history of me playing these games. But I don't do an awful lot of specific prep work for games. I think this game as well. I think if I delved into it too much, I'd tie myself in knots. I'm a bit of a failed perfectionist in some ways, and so it might be better to just go on instinct.
Well, whatever you're doing seems to be working for you this season. This is probably my favorite question. Why do you play the game of diplomacy?
It's fun. I was introduced to it by a family friend probably about 20 years ago now, and I played half a dozen games and sort of over a prolonged period of time, but then had a 6-year break and came back during the pandemic. I think the fact that there's like 7 players. There's so many different. I like when there are a myriad of different relationships that are around that can sort of play off. That I find fascinating. I think there's also an element of personal development as well. I can be a bit timid, and I think this is helping me sort of develop the more element of one's character that sort of makes you stand up for yourself a bit more. And what else am I going to do on a weekend? Talking to 7 people I've never met before for 10 hours and getting brutally eliminated most of the time.
Well, that has not been your story for this season. In 2021-2022 season, your average center count was 3.9. Your top share was 4%. In the 2023-24 season, your average center is significantly improved, 6.4, and you topped nearly 20% of your boards. What do you attribute most to this improvement?
I think partly it's I think I've reduced the number of silly mistakes that I make. I think that some are creeping in. normally it's not pressing home an advantage or letting someone else get an advantage over me when it doesn't. It's not a tactical reality, and I sort of let them do that through just being gullible. I think the other thing, my strategic reading has got better, in the idea of what my sense of what I need to do and what is good for me in the game has improved. Whereas previously, I think my diplomacy was fairly solid, but when you don't know what it is you ought to be arguing for and asking for, it's hard to put that skill set to use. So I think that's been a bit of a shift as well.
Well, congratulations. This season you qualified on the very last turn of the very last game to make it into the top 28. You won in a must-win game. You would have been one of the bottom 3 and eliminated had you not won. This has been a season where you've done exactly enough, and I wish you luck. Hope that continues for you in the upcoming game. Congratulations again. Thank you.
Thank you. So what does this mean? Win on a tie break.
There you go.
Fingers crossed.
All right.
I'm joined here with Johnny Gillam. Hi, Johnny. So,
Hey, howdy.
howdy. Congratulations on making the top board of DBNI. It's a very impressive feat. Can you walk us through how you got here?
Yeah, I somehow managed to come out on top of the so-called Board of Death last Saturday. I think possibly by being one of the people that people were not terrified of on that board. But it was it was a good game. There was a lot of chaos that was going on between the sort of Board of Death people, and I was kind of sitting in Turkey just hanging out, picking up centers slow and steady, and trying not to piss people off too much, and came out on top in the end. It's a good game.
Fantastic. Yeah. Who was on the Board of Death with you, and how did that game sort of play out?
Yeah, so we had Brandon Fogel playing Germany, Jamal playing England, Riaz was in France, so that was an insane West. I was playing Turkey. I had Cameron Higby in Austria, who I did eliminate, and I feel terrible because Cameron's a wonderful person. Taye in Russia, and Bradley Grace playing in Italy.
Nice.
And yeah, it was a super fluid game. One of the most like balance of power-y games that I've really ever played in, actually. I mean, it was like, even until 1915, like a very fluid game, which I think benefits Turkey, especially if you don't get aired right away, which I didn't. Like I said, the West, it was really weird what was going on in the West. I still don't have a clear sense of what happened. They couldn't get it together. Just like never, like weird stabs happening left, right, and center. People making moves that, like, there was a lot of, the turn would go through, and then everyone in the East would kind of go, huh? like I did a lot of that. Like, right. Why did that happen? So I don't know. And then, yeah, like I said, in the East, we played really balanced of power. I was in an AT, I was in an IT, I was in an RT, I was in I think, an RAT, an RIT, and an IAT. So I think actually for at least one turn, every single possible combination of alliance structures in the East, with the exception of AIR, existed, which is great.
Well, that's a testament to your diplomatic skill. Then
yeah, it worked out for sure.
Happen. That's awesome. So now that the field is set, though, how do you feel about each person you'll be playing with individually? And then how do you feel about the group as a whole?
Yeah, it's a weird top 7, right? I think you would have had to be some kind of insane savant to predict this top 7, and in particular this seeding order, where we have the 4 of us who I would say are not necessarily considered heavy hitters. Doug, myself, Matt Totonchy, and Chris Wardy in the top 4 positions, and then the 3 who objectively are heavy hitters, Ed, Seren, and Peter in the bottom 3. Really strange. I don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, a lot of these players... One thing I will say, and this DBNI has been an absolute testament to the Nexus Press League. The Kamish Pixie was a breakout star on DBN for the commentary, and then Doug, myself, and Matt, the top 3 seeds, are all Nexus Press League players. We all finished in like the top 5, I think. So shout out Nexus Press League. You guys should play Press League. But like, these are players that haven't played with each other face to face before. Like maybe once, probably not, right? Like
Right.
how do Ed and Doug Malotte work together? Literally nobody knows. They don't know. I mean, they actually did they play? I don't think they did play a game together this weekend. Like these are like completely untested relationships, which you usually don't get on a top board of like a DBN, or a DBNI. So it's very strange. I think no one really knows what's gonna happen. If I think any of the 7 of us who think we have some great theory about what's gonna happen, anybody who has some like brilliant game plan is probably kind of shooting themselves in the foot. I certainly don't feel like I know what's gonna happen. Seren and Ed is an interesting pair to have next to each other in 5 and 6, right? Known to be very good friends, almost always ally. They have taken me out, the 2 of them together, more than once. So that's something to watch out for. Wardy knows that. Peter will know that. Do Matt and Doug know that? I don't know. Maybe. So how do you deal with that? How do you contain the Seren Ed monster? Are they so afraid of the perception that they're going to work together that actually they do the converse and just fight the whole game? I don't know. That's something to watch out for. Peter, is he going to be in Turkey and just get aired right away? Maybe. That would be a logical thing to happen here. I actually quite like working with Peter. I have worked well with Peter in the past, so he's somebody that I would be more sort of looking at this board and saying, who are my potential friends here? They're Wardy, they're Peter, both Ed and Seren if they're not with each other. I don't know if that's possible. And then Matt and Doug, like I just don't really know. I've played a couple of press games with them, but never played face-to-face with either of them. I know Matt to be kind of conservative, at least in press. I'm not really a conservative player. I don't know if that'll gel, but we have allied together in press. And then Doug, I don't know if people know Doug. Doug has a reputation in the press league for sure. He wins a lot. He says a lot. I will be interested to see what Doug Malotte playing face-to-face looks and sounds like, and how the rest of us on this board react to that. I do not know.
Makes sense. So do you think that little bit of false modesty has been a big aid for you? Like, trying to say that you are not one of the threats on the board, and that, like, trying to limit it so that you're the cutoff, and then Seren, Ed, and McNamara are the threats at above.
No, I think that's true. I think that's objectively true. Like, I don't have a win in my diplomacy career. Like, last week's win was like the biggest win of my career so far. I placed like 32nd in Cascadia. I crashed and burned at the WDC or the VWDC. Like I don't know. I mean, I've had some success, but like there's no way I'm on the level of a Seren or a Peter and Ed. You can call that false modesty if you want. I think that's well placed modesty.
Fair enough. Interpersonally, you leave a lot to be desired. How do you overcome this weakness?
Yeah, I actually just pretend I'm someone different when I'm playing diplomacy. And that sometimes works out. I act like a friendly person who people might want to work with, and I have a lot of practice doing that as a bartender. You have to act like you like people when you actually hate their guts and want to punch them in the face, and that works out for me well in my games.
Now that you mentioned it, that's probably the greatest training anyone has on this board, to pretend to work with people like Ed, like,
Exactly.
that you don't hate them.
Well, Ed's a perfect one, right? Because this is just another opportunity for me to prove that the Washington Huskies are superior to the Texas Longhorns.
Good luck with
that. So I mean, honestly, me and Ed working together is almost out of the question unless we work together the whole game and then I step him for the top. I could see that.
Fair enough. I like that. Turning back to the serious questions, though. When power selection comes up, right, is going to be a big determinant, I think, of how the board actually breaks down. And you brought this up earlier, saying if Seren and Ed are on separate parts of the board, very, very easy for you to work with either of them. But if they're together, they're sort of the bane of your existence that you want to avoid. So, like, how does that affect your power, like, selection strategy, knowing that the people that you describe as non-threats are the top 4 seeds in this board?
To be clear, I don't think that any of the 4 of us are non-threats. Like, first of all, we all made it here. I honestly think the odds that one of the 4 of players who are not Seren, Ed, or Peter tops this board is pretty high. Obviously, statistically, there's more of us than them. But also, the way this weekend worked out, top players, right, didn't really find a lot of success, and there's probably good reason for that. So it's not that I don't think we're good. I think all of us are good. That we have a different level of historical success. Yeah, power selection. I have been going back and forth over this. I don't know. I really don't know. Like, do you drop and try to pick down in the even the 5 or 6 range so that you can be really sure like where Seren's gonna be, where Ed's gonna be, have a determinant there, but then like maybe it's already kind of been decided for you and it's a little bit too late for you to pick a power like Italy that you might want to play on this board, and you end up having to play some power that you really don't want to be in, like, I don't know, a Germany. I like Germany, but it did really poorly this weekend. But I don't know. Do you just stay on top and be like, look, I want to play here, and I'm going to figure it out either way? Like, there's another question. If Seren and Ed are in the East together, for example, do you want to be in that East so that you can do something about it? Or do you want to be as far away as possible? I think there's an argument for either. I don't know. Last week I dropped to 7th and won, so maybe I just say screw it and do the same strategy and play Turkey and win again.
Fair enough. If they're in like Russia and Austria or Russia and Turkey or something like that, I want to be France. I want to be far away as possible.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
Maybe.
but...
I don't know. But like, do you want to be France to like Doug Malotte's England? I don't know. Didn't work out so well for Krill.
It did not work out well for Krill. But there are reasons for that I'm not going to get into. No, but on a more serious note though, we gone over your theories on who you want to be with neighbor-wise. If I say Johnny Gillam, you get to choose your power. What power does Johnny Gillam want to be?
I think I'm less interested in the power that I play as in the position relative to the other people on the board. So I think it's likely that I drop at least a couple of spots. I honestly, like, I don't have that. I would, like, probably not on this board, but on most boards, I'd rather play Turkey than France.
Okay.
Like, I don't have, for whatever reason, just relative to my playstyle, I don't have the same strengths and weaknesses that tend to be the norm in terms of powers. So I'm not really that bothered. I like central powers too. I think I'd like to play Italy.
Okay.
But I think my interest in playing Italy is significantly less than my interest in being in a position relative to everyone else that I think is advantageous.
That makes sense. I want to dive into your Turkey point a little bit. What is it about your playstyle you think that allows you to get people to go the other way? You mentioned that, like, you managed to have every single configuration of Alliance exist besides the AIR. What do you think about Johnny Gillam's playstyle allows that to occur?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. Then I could like really hone in on that and be like a really good diplomacy player. But I'm like actually not sure. I guess my 01 negotiations are pretty good. One thing that I really, really like to do in diplomacy is have a friend by the end of Spring 01. Like, know who my partner is going to be, at least for the beginning stages of the game. And I really like to negotiate in good faith. Like, what do you need? What do you want? Like, I'll kind of... If you're the partner for whatever reason that I think is the best partner for me, like, I will absolutely negotiate. I'm not going to say, like, no, I need to do this for my safety. Like, if you want to DMZ that Black Sea, let's do it. Great. If you want to DMZ Gal, let's do it. Great. If you want to walk into Trieste, go for it. Like what can I do? And I think there are a lot of players that like to play really cautious in 1901. And I think I'll like put the diplomatic pitch on, like, let's do it. It's you and me. Here's the plan. The plan is good. I'm a tempo player. Let's get tempo. And I think people react well to that.
Right.
Some players. You can usually find at least one.
Right. And I think my final question is, you mentioned that you thought that the people that you had as the people who are threats but have like sort of the less history success that sort of Seren, Peter, and Ed do.
Right.
So if I was to ask what you think your chances in particular of winning are, where would you put your chances and why?
Interesting question. I hadn't considered that until now. I think my odds are okay. Do I think they're better or worse than 1 and 7?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think they might be somewhere around 1 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's so hard to predict. Like a lot of the time, you go into a diplomacy board, you hear the board call, right? Like you're at a tournament, you hear the TD doing the board call, and you're like, I know what's gonna happen on that board.
Yep. Like
so and so can work together. So and so is gonna get eliminated. The board tops are this person, maybe this person. Like this board, I don't feel like I can do that. I don't know how these players interact with each other. I don't know how they play in high pressure situations. I don't know how they play in virtual situations. I don't know where people are going to be on the board in terms of countries, which has a huge impact. I think it's hard to say. I think I have as good a chance as anybody else, and I struggle to say who has the best chance.
Okay.
I think Seren, because I have a really high opinion of Seren's talent, probably would be the person that has the best chance, but I don't think it's that much better than anybody else's.
Sure. I lied. I do have one more question.
Aha.
If you do win the DBNI top board,
Mhm.
why did you win it?
If I win the DBNI top board, it will be because I really, really want Karthik Kanath to be forced to go on the stream afterwards and say that in fact the Huskies are better than the Longhorns.
Mm-hmm.
It would just be my driving need for that to happen. Well, I will overcome all obstacles.
I love it. I think it's a fantastic answer. I think we got everything we needed.
All right, great. Thank you, Karthik.
Hello, Matt Totonchy. Thanks for sitting down with me for this interview.
Hi, David. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, glad to have a chance to talk to you before the game.
Absolutely. All right, so I think the question that comes to mind first is, how did you get here? This is awesome. Here you are in the finals. How did you get here?
Yeah, good question. How did I get here? Well, so I went back and looked over my DBNI score and tried to figure out where I got my points, and I got the vast majority of my points from playing virtual, playing the VDL league. I was able to finish second, and then the top board I lost a three-way tie with McCullis and Peter, so that netted me a good amount of points, and I was able to get in. I don't remember what my ranking was, but it was, I think, in the last 5 slots or so of the Invitational. So a lot of VDL is the answer, and some full press too.
All right, so that's a mechanical answer to my question. So let's do a little more. Let's do a deeper dive. But how did you get successful in that context, in that milieu, to get here? What were your keys to getting here?
I think trying to learn from every game and from the different formats. I think full press is a great place to start playing diplomacy. You have a chance to learn, take your time with the tactics, take your time with diplomacy, and you can also get a lot more experience than just playing virtual because there are constantly games going. So you can get a lot of reps in. So I've played a lot of full press the last couple of years. I think for me, a great aspect of diplomacy is that I think you play against yourself a lot more than you play against other players. And I think the self-awareness, I think one pivot point for me is looking at self-awareness, understanding the negotiations and why I'm making the decisions I'm making, why other people are making the decisions they're making, making persuasive arguments to people based on how they see their position, based on how they see themselves and their relationship to you. I think when I started focusing more on that, and when I started having more ongoing experiences with the same people, again, VDL is a league, so you can develop longer-term relationships with folks. And I think I perform better in those situations where people know I know who I'm dealing with, and when they know who they're dealing with.
Speaking of relationships, Matthew, what would you say, and maybe this is the answer to the question, what is it in diplomacy that makes it so cool? Is it the relationship building? Is it the tactical exercise? What is it for you?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yes, I know.
What,
Now give me a great answer.
I'll try. What enamors me of diplomacy, I think, is that it is a game more about people than it is about the pieces on the board. And yes, we negotiate in the shadow of the state of the board, but you can do so much in the game, and it's such an elegant game to play in that respect. It's always different, and I think because the real challenge is playing the players and understanding yourself, the challenge never ends, right? You're always going to encounter new players. Players evolve, you change. So it's that constant learning and striving to understand the game and the players and play the best game you can on any given board.
Yeah, it is basically a lifelong thing if you let it.
Yeah.
In terms of learning how to play and learning how to play better.
And you see that in the player pool. I mean, you have players that have been playing for decades, and I think that speaks to the longevity of the hobby and how passionate people are about the hobby.
Yeah, that is. I think you're totally right about that. Well, you have obviously had top board experience in the extended deadline world. I mean, that's one reason you made it into the field here. How would you compare what you're feeling right now, getting ready to do a top board in a premier marquee sort of virtual event, versus the top board experience you've had? The most recent one, I guess, was that Nexus, or was that the
VDL? The VDL was the last top board I played.
Okay, all right. Well, how would you compare that experience in the VDL? That's sort of what I'm getting at. That experience in the virtual setting versus experience in an extended deadline setting.
Yeah, so this will be my second top board in a virtual setting. I've only played one top board in full press, so my experience is fairly limited with top boards in general, and I'm actually trending more towards virtual play now. I think virtual in general, as well as face-to-face, I've had the ability to go to a couple face-to-face tournaments now. I think as you move away from full press and more towards virtual and then face-to-face, the big difference is, one, the time constraint, of course, but the real big difference is that I think emotions take a bigger hold in the diplomacy. People get a lot more heated about things.
Really? Really? That happened?
I think so, Dave. I don't know. I'd be interested to get your opinion about it, but my experience is that it's a lot more of an emotional game than people want to embrace or admit. And I think navigating those emotions is something that I've tried to focus on, both in myself and in other players. And I think that is, if I do have any edges, I hope that is one of them. And I think that is one thing that is wonderful about the game, is that there is an underlying current of, well, this game is about relationships. Well, then it is fundamentally about human emotion. And I want to embrace that aspect of the game and make it a strong suit for me.
All right, well, let's take emotions out of it and talk about the Paris method, going into your strategy for the Paris method, which is certainly a totally logical, non-emotional plan, right? You have that already.
Yeah, the Paris method is fascinating because sometimes nothing really interesting happens and then it's very predictable, and sometimes you get all your preparation can go out the window, right? And I've gotten a lot of ribbing from people about taking a lot of time in the VDL Paris method and then just picking France first anyway. But I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I need to sit down and think about it, and think about the positioning and the players I want to play with. And I think that's challenging. And again, last time I did that a lot on the VDL top board, and all of that went out the window. So the best laid plans can certainly not net you a lot. So I'm going to play the game like I play all the games. I'm going to be flexible and find people that I want to work with and want to work with me. And to the extent I can do that in the Paris method and figure out a way to do that in the Paris method, I'll do my best.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer there. I think a long, pregnant, uncomfortable pause has now become the term Totonchy. That's what it means. Just like we know what a Fogel is, we now know what a Totonchy is. If you pull a Totonchy, it means that she has a very long, uncomfortable silence. So I'm glad that you're not doing that in this interview.
Maybe I need to do that more in my diplomacy. But I don't talk as I think you've heard some of the maybe the back channel things. Is I tend to listen a lot more than I talk, I think maybe that comes from a lot of just personality type things. But yeah, I think it takes me longer to process things than other people, and I think that's okay. But I have to adapt.
Nothing wrong. All kidding aside, who cares? Let them wait.
Yeah.
All right, so let me sort of close with this question, and I want you to dish here now.
Okay.
Who are you mostly looking forward to playing with? Or conversely, who do you want to avoid on this board? Any names? Throw out there. We want some controversy. They're not going to hear this till after they're already going. So.
I could go through the list of all the players and give you my perspective on them. The one player I have not played with is Seren, and I think she is an absolutely fantastic player. I have watched many of her games, and I'm always impressed with her ability to get people to fight all around her, and then she's just making the perfect moves to get into dots when she needs to. When I was preparing for the VDL top board, I watched her game as Italy in Summer Classic a couple times because I thought I was going to end up in Italy, and that was the last time I'd seen someone masterfully play Italy like that. And then she just did that again to get on the top board with Italy.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Yes.
As far as I'll add to that I play a lot better with people once I've had experience with them. And because I've never played with Seren, I don't know what negotiations with her are going to be like. So that's sort of an X factor. That doesn't mean I don't want to work with her or against her. It just means this player is one of the top players in the world, and I've never played with her, so I don't really know what to expect. Everyone else I have experience with. And I think I can work with any of them. And it's going to be more about what opportunities the board presents and how I can find a way to work with them, and how they can find ways to work with me too. I mean, I think I'm inherently collaborative, but I don't want to be a pushover. And I'm not going to let that happen to me on this board.
I don't think anybody's expecting you or anybody else on this Super 7 top board.
I do think that some players like Doug, I have had more experience with Doug than other players because we played the Nexus Press League together. I think people are going to be drastically underestimating Doug. He's a pretty dynamic player, and I don't think you saw that as much as you didn't see the extent to his abilities in the game that he got onto the top board on. So I think people are going to be continuing to underestimate him to their detriment, and he's getting to pick first, which he'll probably be in France. So that will be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to underestimate the person who's the top seed coming into the top board, but I'm sure you're right, just because of lack of familiarity.
And I think he's also, this comment was made on the broadcast, that you have a lot of players, including myself, that made the top board that people didn't expect to be on the top board.
Yes.
So within that group of 3 or 4 players, I think, Doug again is going to be coasting under the radar. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Well, I think and we'll close with this comment and your reaction to it. I think the fact that we've got people that other people are not expecting to on the top board is incredibly awesome. It shows the strength of the field, and it shows that you shouldn't listen to anybody who's an analyst on DBN. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think you're right. I think it also speaks to something else that came up in the interview you had with Katie Gray the other day. And one thing I really loved that she said was that don't play the game other people want you to play your game. And I think as I've embraced that, I think I've had better results too. So shout out to Katie, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew, and good luck here on the top board.
Thanks, David.
Hi, Peter. Congratulations on making the top 4 of the DBNI. It's a very impressive feat. Could you walk us through how you got here?
How did I get here? Well, the short answer is I drew France. The long answer is a long qualification process. I didn't even know if I'd make it because of what events I was playing in didn't work out until late in the year. But I'm here. I had a rough first game in the tournament, got eliminated in 1905, but I was able to pull it out in the next game, fortunately.
Yeah, so how did the game 2 work for you? What sort of magic did you work to be able to make it to the top board?
I got an ally, and that was key. So Craig was willing to work with me. He was happy with me opening to the channel and going and killing Matt Crewell's Matt Crewell's England. Sorry about that, Matt, nothing personal. And then there were 2 things that happened on the other side of the board. Well, one was that Germany and Russia couldn't really work together enough. And the other one that sort of sealed the deal was Jason Mastbaum stabbing Chris Brand in Italy and taking off all those green fleets.
So what you're saying is that Jason Mastbaum stabbing Chris Brand was one of the major reasons why you came out on top.
That was the final nail in the coffin that sealed it for everyone.
Right. So it sounds like Chris Brand made a mistake in choosing Jason Mastbaum as an ally over me, is what I'm hearing.
I understand that you have some bias in this because you were in this game.
I'll take that as a yes. But now that the field is set, how do you feel about each person you'll be playing with individually? And then how do you feel about the group as a whole?
I'm excited to play with Doug because I don't think I've played with Doug before. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't believe you have. He's mostly played online, so.
Because it's a new player and it's always great to see new players. Well, I don't think he's a new player, but he's a player who plays a lot of press diplomacy online, and it's always great to see these players come across. Whenever they come across, like, if you're good at diplomacy online, you're just like good at diplomacy. Fundamentally, the fundamentals of the game are the same. It's just the communication platform is different.
Perfect. And then what about the other players that will be with you on the top board?
I've played with all the others. There's a lot of players here who are sort of the generation that I want to say are the pandemic or post-pandemic generation. These people are good. Obviously, Johnny, Wardy, and Seren are the ones I sort of think of in that generation. Ed has been around for a long time, and Matt, well, Ed has been playing online for a long time. Matt's been playing online for, I don't actually know how long they've been playing for. I assume a while. It's going to be exciting. It's a very varied group of characters, I think. And Seren is the favorite.
Okay, interesting. So, jumping straight off of that, you think Seren is the favorite to win. What do you think your chances of winning are?
I'm number 7 seed, so I forgot about this rule that says that if you solo, you get a higher seed. So I took the draw. And it sounds arrogant to say I should go for a solo when I had 9 supply centers. But that's the chance. That's the way to avoid Turkey and the 1903 death.
Well, chances are it's Austria in the 1903 death, but yes.
I think that it's going to be hard for me to get out of the opening here, picking 7.
Yeah.
If I can get out of the opening and if I don't draw Turkey, I've got a chance. I'm not very good at Turkey.
Do you expect to get ganged up on early?
It depends. There's a reasonable chance, at least 1 in 3.
Okay. If you don't get ganged up on early, what do you think your chances of winning are?
It depends if I'm Austria or Turkey.
If you're Austria and Turkey, one or the other. Like,
if I'm Austria, they're better than if I'm Turkey.
Okay.
Austria can grow, and Turkey has this problem where they sort of sit there in the corner and they start doing well, and then suddenly these idiots in England, France, and Germany have let one of them get to 12 centers, and it's over. There's not a lot you can always do about that, is there?
Right. So turning to power selection, you are picking 7th, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And where would you like to go? Like realistically, and then where would you like to go ideally?
Realistically, I mean, I'm going to pick 7th. They're not going to let me pick above 7th. Ideally, they can let me take France, but of course that's not going to happen. I think I get Austria or Turkey.
Okay. And like you said, you prefer Turkey, so you prefer Austria to
Austria.
Okay.
Although my track record, given first round, is not really there.
Based off of the people that you'll be around, who would you like to be next to?
Ooh. See, well, I would like to be next to Doug, because I've never played with Doug, and that's always going to be fun to play with a new player. I don't think that's very likely. I sort of am expecting Doug to be in France and me to be off in the East. I haven't thought too much about who's likely to be in my neighbors, but I think probably the lower one seeds are more likely to be near me, like Seren and Ed. That's going to be an interesting, some interesting negotiations.
Yeah, let's dive into that some more. How do you feel about Ed and Seren likely being next to you, and how does that impact your incoming strategy to the game?
Well, Ed will probably be fun to play with, so that's good. I wonder if I can convince him that I can be his puppet. I'm not sure he'll buy that.
Yeah. Interpersonally, you leave a lot to be desired. How do you overcome this weakness?
I'm a Texas Instruments calculator. Interpersonal relationships are irrelevant.
I like it. That's perfect. Thanks so much, Peter.
All right, thanks.
How long have you played Diplomacy?
So I've been playing off and on for over 40 years. My first game was in the summer before 7th grade, and there was a club and they taught us all how to play Diplomacy. So we played a bit then, and then I played a bit more when I was 18. I did some face-to-face then out of high school. Then I had the luck to discover play by email when it came out, back when Manus Hand was the source of all things Diplomacy, the Diplomacy pouch and the link to all the judges. Played quite a bit then, including some variants. Had an amazing time. Then during COVID, we were all looking for stuff to watch, killing time, and I discovered the DBN stream. And I said, wait a minute, I could play some Diplomacy. I remember this. Game has changed a bit, of course, but you know, I feel very pleased to be back.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, good. Got that. They know where starting points are. Okay, so the first question they have on here is, why do you feel you... Wait, hang on. Why do you feel you can win this game?
I absolutely do not feel I can win this game. I'm paired up with 7 of the best players in the world. Well, 6 of the best players of the world and me. I'm happy to put out a good showing. A little bit of luck. I've said it a million times. I'm not that great at this game. I just am a chatty guy, and I'm pretty damn cheerful. So sometimes that helps, and sometimes that gets you absolutely murdered.
Been on the murdered side many, many times.
I think we all have.
I don't know. Peter McNamara, I can't imagine. I don't know. He got round one. He got pretty busted up. So we'll see.
I was surprised they let him roll in round 2 as freely as they did. That guy, you know, if they treat me like they treated Peter McNamara in round 2, then absolutely I can win. If nobody's going to attack me all game, I feel pretty strong about my game.
Who do you fear most on this board?
So you're asking me who I fear most on this board. I probably don't fear the right people the most, just because I don't have experience with them. I've seen Seren's games, and some of them are just absolutely devastating. And I've heard the legend of Peter McNamara, so I probably should fear them, but I have no experience with them, so I have no idea how they actually are in person. Oddly, I fear Matt Totonchy. And I don't know that it's his play. I think it's just the fact that he's freaking charming, and I keep watching people hand him games. Congratulations, here's your win. Congratulations, here's your win. And as you told me the other day, David Hood doesn't call it tactics, he calls it diplomacy.
Nice, yeah. And that's one thing me on the sidelines here is really looking forward to, is it's not a battle of the known titans like it was last year, where everyone was a DBN star. This year is so different than probably any of the other top boards. So we're thrilled about a different storyline as well, but the different types of players that are on it too. It's just really cool. So
I'm expecting a slightly different style game than what you saw last year. I've watched a ton of Nicolas Sapouguet games, and he never moves until 2 or 3 years before the end date. And I've watched a ton of Brandon Fogel games, and he's never seen a supply center he didn't like. So I expect something slightly different this time. There's a lot more diplomacy and a lot less murder.
Yep, you got that right, Brandon. We would tease about us Chicagoans. So we've clearly taught Brandon well. Since your virtual face-to-face experience is more limited than most of these players, do you have a pre-game ritual?
I do not have a pre-game ritual. We are down in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, as you know. So I'm probably going to hit the gym. I'm probably going to get a little sun. I'm probably going to open all the windows and stare at the ocean. And you don't really need much planning when you happen to live in paradise.
I wish I can do that. I get that a couple months of the year. I don't do it too much. So. Why do you play diplomacy?
Why I play diplomacy is simple. You can't murder people in real life. This gives you the chance to absolutely brutalize some people. And my very, very favorite thing about the game is when you try and convince someone not to murder somebody in diplomacy, you're not trying to convince them not to murder somebody, you're just trying to convince them to murder somebody else. So it restores my faith in human nature. So,
what are the 3 words that describe your diplomacy style?
3 words to describe my diplomacy style? Efficient.
I was waiting for the next one. Oh, that's perfect. What will you eat before Saturday's game?
So I think eating during Saturday's game is important. It's a long grind. I actually just went through a pretty big health change. I think we all got fat and lazy during COVID. Since then, I've dropped over 25 kilos. So about 55 pounds. And I'm busy trying to put it back in the gym to put a bunch of weight on. So breakfast every morning is low-fat cottage cheese and egg whites. There'll definitely be some turkey breast, a bunch of fresh spinach. The blessed thing about being down here in Cabo San Lucas is the price of all the fresh veggies and everything is cheap, and the price of the processed food is expensive. So you eat fresh and better for a ton cheaper than you eat processed. So it makes being healthy easier.
So you're the top seed on this top board. Any early strategy on how your picking order might play out?
I was actually told by several people how to pick this game. What you really want to do is you want to watch everyone overthink their position and watch them strategize, and then you want to shut the hell up and take the France.
Nice.